We're reviewing card rankings from tens of thousands of Dominaria United drafts in order to optimize our pick order, and we're starting right now. Coming from our Format Day 2 review of 17 lands data, we had the following pick order takeaway. First, pick removal. All trophy decks piled up on removal. Second, pick evasion next. Trophy decks that didn't get as much removal had evasion. Third, pick cantrips next. Tempo without running out of cards matters. Fourth, pick 2-drop creatures. You need to get on board early, but 2-drops are plentiful and interchangeable. Let's review the card stats to see how this pick order lines up. We expect higher pick orders to win with many decks, leaving us open. What are the highest win rate commons? Here in 17 lands under Analytics Card Ratings, I can see the performance of cards and how often it wins percentage-wise as a in-hand win rate. So in any game where I've drawn this card, what's the percentage likelihood that I'm going to win out of all the drafts done through 17 lands? First, I want to pick Dominaria United, Premier Draft, as that's the most common format. Then I want to filter only for commons because we want to really see what the most common cards are and what their win rate are to get an idea of what cards are the highest performing and what we want to go into. We look at the game in hand win rate and we start off with Shield Wall Sentinel. I'm not going to go into that one. It deserves kind of its own little deep dive, so I'll skip that, but I'll go through all the other ones. At number 2, we have Tolarian Geyser with a 62.1% win rate, so that is a cantrip that fits into our pick order at number 3. Then we have Take Up the Shield, which is a removal spell. We have Extinguish the Light next, another removal spell. We have Essence Scatter, which is effectively another removal spell. We have Destroy Evil, which is another removal spell. Finally, the pick number 7, we have Argivian Cavalier, our very first creature that doesn't come up to win rate 7. Number 8, we have Phyrexian Espionage. Then we have Urborg Repossession, which is a draw spell. Not a cantrip, but it still is under the same performance criteria that card advantage matters. Then Lightning Strike, another removal spell. Then Impulse, a cantrip. And finally, not until number 12, we get Keldon Strike Team, another creature. Then we move down to another removal spell with Tribute to Urborg. Talus Lookout, one of the best commons in the set. Gaia's Might, which can be seen as another removal spell, at least giving enough power to give removal to a creature. Followed by Phyrexian Rager, again, one of the best creatures in the set. So I think you can see the pattern that removal and draw matter the most, and then we get to our creatures after that. For Limited, a format where you typically have nearly as many creatures as you have lands, I think this makes the point that removal and cantrips or some form of draw are high picks. You can't just pick up draw too early because you can easily collect too many draw spells that don't impact the board. Cantrips that affect the board, on the other hand, are hard to pick up too many of. Now, what about evasion? I think this is less needed, but you do need a way to get around your opponent's go-wide tokens or walls. You either need speed to get under them, flyers to go over them, trample to smash through them, or you join them with go-wide or walls yourself. Tempo is the guiding philosophy of this set. Your creatures that don't fly, trample, or go wide must be dropped turn 1 to 3. You need to get on board early, or you will fall behind and die. But cheap creatures are plentiful, so that's not what you need to prioritize. You'll pick them up after you get the rarer cards. Turn 4 to 6 should be about disrupting your opponent, like removal or bounce, double spelling to replace cheap creatures if you got disrupted early, or adding to your win condition with flyers, trample, go wide, or walls. That's really what I mean when I say evasion comes after removal. Removal is what everyone's fighting over, so it's rarer to pick up and should be picked up first after bombs. Then your win condition, likely shared among a few drafters in your pod. Then draw of some type, since it's proven card advantage of some type is usually needed to win. Then fill up your draft with the remaining plentiful 2-drops. You do want to balance, so the skill of knowing when to cut over to the next priority is important. You can probably follow the pick order mentioned until pack 3. Come pack 3, most decks want to have at least 8 cards that affect the board by turn 2, creatures or removal count. 8 cards gives you an 82% chance of drawing a 2-drop in your opening hand. Going down to 7 is only a 77% chance, so roughly 1 out of every 4 games, you aren't able to play anything turn 2. Going down to 6, and you're getting near 70%. If you pick up the cheap removal early, you're probably fine, and pack 3 will let you pick up your remaining 2-drops you need to get 8 plus 2-drops. I will interject in that rank order that after your bombs, removal, and invasion, you should probably pick up lands. You want the ability to cast your kicker or splash, and you also just need more mana sources than the 17 lands can provide you to smooth out your draws. Now, I do think people are taking them too highly. Let me show this. Here we're on 17 lands again, and when I go to the Analytics tab Card Performance Comparison, I get this Card Performance Comparison tool. I pick Dominaria United, and then I go and pick the commons, and I don't care what color, but I do want to view a certain x-axis and y-axis. X, I want to see how early people are picking them. There's a couple options for that. There is the straightforward average taking at, but I think a better representation of it, because not everybody is playing, you'll skip cards of a particular color, is average last seen at. It means how late can that card potentially go on average before it is sniped up as too good to pass up. So I pick that as my x-axis, and then my y-axis, I want to see the same win rate item we were looking at earlier, which is drawn in-game win rate. So in other words, on the y-axis, the higher up we go, we have higher percentages of win rate, and the further right we go, the later the card gets picked. So you'll see a trend line of going from the upper left to bottom right. That makes sense because people are picking earlier the cards that have higher win rate and waiting until later to pick up the cards that have lower win rate. And what we see here is a bunch of dots which are indicative of cards where the color of the dot represents the color of the card unless it's purple, which means multicolor. And then the size of the dot indicates how often that card was picked. And then its position on the X and Y axis is indicative of exactly what we just described, pick order and win rate. So a couple things I want to point out here. Items that are towards the left, meaning picked earlier, that also aren't at the top, meaning a higher win rate, in some ways indicate they're being picked too early. Now don't get me wrong, this should be taken with a grain of salt, knowing that lands enable you to kick your powerful cards, some of which have the highest win rate. Those include cards like Tolarian Geyser here, Tribute to Urborg, and Urborg Repossession. But all those cards can be played and effective without splashing for kicker. I think you want to know your base colors and what cards you could kick before you pick your lands to support kicking them. Now I went ahead and changed from common to rarity because it seems like they took out the lands from the commons since I last looked at this. So I revealed all the different lands. You'll see they're the biggest purple dots here. All of these are lands, and almost all of them are below the average win rate line. Again, it's worth taking with a grain of salt, but the point I'm trying to make here is that the higher win rate kicker cards really should be picked up first before you need to commit to particular colors that you should be taking the lands on. And I think people take lands a little too early, and the win rate kind of indicates that that will be the case as well. So know your colors first, then go into picking lands. They should be reasonably high picks. Mana bases are very important and limited, but I think people are overhyping them. So there you have it. The pick order is first bombs, then removal, then evasion, then lands, then card draw, then 2-drops. That's all for today. I think next time we can view the different tangible decks that do each kind of evasion method to see how you can get into them. Then the following week, it'll probably be good to review how card pick order has changed over time, and therefore how the metagame has shifted. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.